Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Elise here of Plan with Elise, and today we are talking all about cash envelopes. What is a cash envelope system? What is the benefit of using cash? How to get started? And I'm answering a ton of your questions from a box that I had posted on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. So I have a bunch of stuff here that I want to show you, but first let's do a little bit of an intro into cash envelopes. So what is a cash envelope system? There are three different methods. I like to say three different methods of using cash envelopes. Method number one, which I use, is for your in-person spending. For me, that's groceries, miscellaneous spending, getting manicures, gas, anything that you are going to purchase in person, because you can't use a cash envelope for something you're going to purchase online, like Amazon or another online website. The second method of cash envelopes, which I also use partially, is for savings. So when you are saving for a specific goal, let's say it's vacation or Christmas, or using a savings challenge, like a 52-week savings challenge, just to bump up your savings a little bit. Some people really like to use cash for that because when it's out of their bank account, it's kind of out of mind. So out of sight in terms of out of the bank account, even though it would be in your home, it's a little bit out of mind. And you can also physically see it growing as you can check something off in your planner or your envelope system. It helps to be able to see the progress a little bit more than if it were maybe in the bank account and you wouldn't necessarily realize that the funds you have in that bank account are set aside for a specific purpose, such as vacation, holidays, things like that. The third method of cash envelope stuffing is for your bills. So the idea would be that when your payday comes, you would go to the bank, you would withdraw the cash for your bills until you have enough to pay the entire bill, like for me, my rent, and then I would go and deposit the money before the rent is due. I don't do that method. I have a couple of videos from earlier in January where I showed doing it a little bit just as more of an example and a test to see how that would do on YouTube. And it just ended up being a lot of work and a lot of moving money around. And for me, it didn't work. For someone who would it work for would be someone who has trouble not spending the money in their bank account. So if you do a lot of impulse shopping online and something like that, and you are afraid you're going to spend the money that you've allocated for rent or your car payment or insurance or something like that, having the money in cash might be better for you. So again, it's sort of out of sight, out of mind, even though it could be in sight because it is in your home. So those are the different cash envelope methods that I think are important to talk about. Again, the ones that I use are the in-person spending and the savings, some savings, not all of them. For example, I don't have my emergency fund in cash. I don't have my retirement, which is, it's in a retirement. Sorry, I'm like, it's in a retirement account. So that's not a savings that I do in cash, but other things that I do are for vacation. Holidays, I do not save for in cash because I don't do my holiday shopping in cash. I do that mainly online. So it's really the in-person spending. Even for my recent vacation, while you would need to book certain things online and you couldn't do that in cash, I will typically still save in cash so that it's out of my bank account and then put back in my bank account whatever I need to pay for a flight, hotel, etc., and then have money that I bring with me when I'm on a trip. Now, I want to give a disclaimer here. Cash isn't for everyone. I know there are people who will say that it's unsafe to carry cash, it's unsafe to have cash at home. At the end of the day, you have to do what you're comfortable with. Just because someone feels that it's not safe to do, or maybe not sanitary to do, or they don't want to go to the bank every week, doesn't mean that that's the end all be all. Just like I say, when it comes to your planning and your budget in general, you have to do what is right for you. Now, do I recommend having several $1,000s in cash in your home? Absolutely not, because if it's gone, it's gone. So you have to figure out what number you're comfortable with keeping in your home, where you're going to keep it, whether you're going to get a safe or something like that. So that part is really a personal decision. Now let's talk about one of the benefits, why use cash? Why do this? Again, if you are an impulse spender, cash can be really helpful to have on hand when you are shopping. So let's say you are at the grocery store or a fun store like Home Goods, where I think we can all be a little bit guilty of impulse spending. Cash is more tangible than a card. So if you have $60 in cash and you also know that you have $60 in your bank account, it's going to be much more difficult to spend that money in cash because you are physically handing over everything you have. And if you go beyond that number, you don't have the money physically. Whereas in your bank account, maybe you do have more than $60, but that remaining amount is set aside for another financial goal or a bill. When you're working only in cash in terms of in-person spending, you are not going to overspend, or this is a way to help not overspend. So when it comes to cash stuffing, I have a bunch of questions here. I think I want to show a little bit of the system, some of the systems I use, and then I'll go through the questions, and hopefully by the end of this video, any questions you have been answered. So one of my favorite ways to do cash stuffing are with these binders that I've gotten from Amazon. They're really affordable. They usually range between like $10 and $13 depending on if there's a sale or not. And I have two of these. One of them is for my savings. So whether it's a savings challenge that I have, these are all savings challenges from my Etsy shop. Here's a 52-week savings challenge. So one of those is specifically for that. And then the other one is for I mixed this up. These are partially savings challenges because I have Christmas here, I have Mother's Day, but let's open up this pink one again. And this is for my in-person spending. So for example, I have this, I know it's backwards, but this says fun. I have a hair envelope because I am going to get my hair done in person. I have gas here. I have groceries, regular spending, manicures because I get my manicures in person. One that I call Ant Life for when I am with my niece and nephew and want to spend money, whether it's on food or a fun event like Dave & Buster's or something like that. I have Health and Beauty, and I have Miscellaneous. So a lot of the questions I get when I'm doing my budget is, what does spend mean? Because I have a spending category. There's nothing I spend money on every single week. So things are falling. My spending category is typically used for my week-to-week random expenses. So it might be picking up a prescription at the store. I know I have a Health and Beauty envelope. I don't typically stuff it. So that was one that I got, but didn't necessarily use that much. So I could be going to get a bagel if I want to, or like I said, picking up a prescription if I need some shampoo, running to the store and buying a new blanket, something for my home. Just the little spending that we do that doesn't always get its own category, because I think that when you over categorize your spending, it can be really challenging in a few ways. It can be difficult to stay on track and know what goes to which category, and what if you go to Target and then you have to pull from 10 different envelopes because you're buying food and pet food and clothing and shampoo, and it's too many different categories. So for me, I like to just kind of have one weekly spending category. Again, when it comes to a budget and a cash envelope system, it's going to really be a little bit of trial and error and figuring out what works for you. Also gas, I think I mentioned gas in there. Okay, so again, these are great because when I go to the bank, I do stuff these. And then, and this is one of the questions, so hopefully this will help answer it, but when I'm going to whatever location I'm going to need to spend the money at, I will pull out that envelope and throw it into my wallet. So if I'm going to the grocery store, I went to the grocery store this morning, I pulled out my grocery envelope, put it in my wallet, and then I'll come back and put the money back in here. If I know I need gas, I will do that, although gas is one that maybe you'll want to keep in your wallet regularly, just in case you don't always realize that you're running out of gas. Like if I think right now, I'm not entirely sure how full my gas tank is, so that's one that's probably good to have on hand. If I'm going to get a manicure, I will bring that with me. If I'm going out for a day and I don't necessarily know where the day will bring me, sometimes I'll bring things like spending, fun, dining out, clothing, like if I'm going to the mall, I could do I could spend up from a lot of those different categories. I also won't bring all the money that's in an envelope. If I have $200 in my fun envelope, I might not bring that because, again, it has to be your comfort level of how much cash you are willing to carry. So I wouldn't bring all the money I have in every envelope, but I'd bring enough to carry me through. And if by chance I overspend, I still do have a credit card that I could use as a backup, but it's not my top choice to do. So that's the binders. I will link them below. Next up is maybe you want something a little bit bigger. So here is a wallet from Notique. And aside from a pen, it's empty because I don't have it in use right now. But I also have this little cash system from Notique, which I'll show you in a moment. I think we are blurry. Here we go. And that fits perfectly in here. So this is a little bit bigger. You would want to make sure you are using, this is not catching. There we go. Oh, sorry about the filming trouble a little bit. A bigger purse to put this in, just to show you in comparison. This is my regular wallet that I use. It's smaller and it is thinner. I dropped an envelope that I need to show you. So the Notique, I'm gonna pull this out again. There is space for all of your cards and things like that. This is small. This is the same size as a Skinny Mini Happy Planner. And in here, there are trackers and clear envelopes. So one of the questions was if I have found small envelopes that pop on discs. This is it. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that pop on discs right here with plenty of envelopes inside. So this is a great option. Everything I'm using will be linked rather than me saying, I'll link this, I'll link this. What I've been using lately, which I really love, and like I said, I just got back from the grocery store, are these envelopes. These are from Plan Budget Dream on Instagram and Etsy. So here's one without anything in it. Here is one where I have my remaining money from groceries, and I also threw the receipt back here so I can remember before I put this back in my binder, I want to track it in my budget planner. What I like about these envelopes is that they're really small. So when I just have my regular wallet, I can just throw an envelope in here and close it. And it's just really easy to carry around as opposed to what I was doing before, which was taking an envelope out of here. I'm just going to pull one out so you can see. I would take one of these. Of course, my wallet wants to. And it can fit, but I have to kind of bend the corners down and it's just not as easy. So it's taken a lot of trial and error to figure out what envelope systems I prefer to use and things like that. Also, in these binders, I have trackers. So again, there we go. This is my Ant Life tracker. So it says category, Ant Life, date, amount, plus and minus, and balance. So this is where you can track where the money in your envelope is going. Okay, a couple of things that I want to talk about before I get to the questions. One of them is the idea of moving money in between envelopes. So the purpose of using cash envelopes for your in-person spending is to budget and stay within categories. And part of budgeting is making sure that you are not taking from this side to pay for this side, because the goal is to stay within budget. Now, if you've watched my mid-month budget check-in videos, there are times that I move money between them, and that's okay with me, even though I know I just said the goal is not to do that. While the goal isn't to do it, it doesn't mean that I'm 100% against moving money. If I need gas and I've run out of my gas money for the week, I'm not going to not pull money from a manicure envelope so I don't to get gas. That there are certain things that are just more important, and again, a budget is so personal to you. I feel like I'm a little bit all over the place. So let me get to some of your questions. And again, that's not it. These were from a question box on Instagram where I asked what questions you had. So the first question that I want to address is how to get started. Okay, how to get started, my best recommendation, and this is kind of how I talk about how to get started in budgeting in general, is to start slow. Pick one or two categories. Groceries, great category to start. Gas, good category. Um, Personal spending. If you want to get started with a cash envelope system, the best way is probably not to go buy tons of things and be like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Because number one, you need to get used to it a little bit. Number two, you might find that it doesn't work for you. And if it doesn't work for you, now you spent a ton of money on something that you're not using. So there are certain ways, like you could get, again, one of these affordable binders. You could get my trackers that come inside of these binders. The envelopes come with the binder, but my trackers or savings challenges just pop into the envelopes. So starting small and starting with a couple of categories. Then the question was how to know what categories to use and how much. Again, start small and then start to think and note about what purchases you make in person. Like I said, the grocery store, for me, manicure, my hair, Ant Life is just, again, when I'm with my niece or nephew. Whatever stores you find yourself going to most often, those are the categories you're going to want to work with. Now, again, if you are a Target and a Walmart shopper, think about what you buy there. If you buy groceries, you should have a grocery envelope. If you tend to buy a lot of clothing in person, I would recommend a clothing envelope, which I have and kind of put money into every once in a while. And it's not a regular cash stuffing that I do. If you are buying decoration like fall decor for your home in the Target Bullseye section, or you go to, Home Goods, those are the categories that you want to use. The next part of that question is how much money to put in each category. This is a tough one because I can't tell you how much money you should put in each category. However, there are certain things that we can talk about a little bit here. Number one is how much are you spending right now? So how much did you spend on gas in the last month? And is that about your average? I know it varies because of gas prices varying, but also maybe you went on a road trip and you don't plan on doing that much driving this month. Or for me, I know I'm going to be driving about a half hour each way multiple times a week for my niece and nephew's sports games. So that's probably going to be more money for gas than I want to use or than I planned originally to use, as opposed to August, where I was on vacation for a week and didn't drive at all. So I have a little bit of gas money as a buffer left over there. So knowing what you already spend is really important in terms of deciding how much to put in each envelope. I know what my manicures cost. I know what my hair costs. I know what my grocery budget is. So look back at previous spending to figure out how much to put in it. When it comes to other types of spending, like we're just going to talk about fall home decor, decide you may not be able to look and see how much you spent last year and if you want to spend the money this year, but think about a number that you're comfortable with. So whether it's $20 to just buy a couple of things or $400 because fall is your thing and decorating your home is everything to you. I'm not going to tell you what's an inappropriate amount of money because you don't know what your numbers look like. But when you hold that envelope and you know, I have this money allocated just for decorations for my home, is that a number you're comfortable with? So to really start, I would recommend, as always, writing down your income, subtracting your expenses, and seeing what's left over and dividing that what's left over among the remaining categories, whether it is savings or other spending that you may not usually budget for, like home decor or planning supplies or things like that. Because when you tell your money where to go, you will never wonder where it went. So that's a really important key when it comes to how much should go in each envelope. Also, well, we'll get to the savings parts. Okay, a question, do I carry all the money around with me? No, like I said, I only pull the envelopes that are going to apply to what I'm doing that day, and I don't bring all of the money. I bring an amount that I am comfortable with. Do I schedule an ATM visit regularly? I think that would be a pain. I do. I go to the bank every week. I get paid weekly. So I go to the bank every week. My bank is about a mile away. It takes nothing for me to just drive to the bank, go through the ATM, and pull out the cash. If your bank is further away, that might be more of a challenge, but it also gets me out of my apartment because I work from home and I don't necessarily go out every day. Sometimes it's like 2 or 3 days before I leave these walls. So it's part of the routine, right? Planning is a routine. You open your planner certain times of day. Maybe on paydays, you'll always know that is the day I'm going to go to the bank or go to the ATM to withdraw the money. Do I keep my savings in the bank or at home? Like I said, it's a combination. A lot of it stays in the bank. My monthly savings challenges that I do with my patrons stay at home until the month ends, and then I bring it to the bank because we are all only comfortable having a certain amount of money at home. Did I make changes for safety during COVID? So I did. I didn't spend much money during COVID. When COVID first hit, I'm just trying to backtrack a little bit. But when it first hit, I was living by myself and I would go to the bank to withdraw the cash and I would use it for groceries. Shortly after COVID hit, I moved in with my boyfriend at the time, and there just wasn't a lot of money being spent. So I kind of paused on everything for a bit until the time came that I was comfortable going to the bank weekly and things like that again. I also want to note that I keep change in my wallet. We're in a coin shortage, so I do always try to pay with exact cash and change when I can. Is there a recommended limit for a miscellaneous line item in your budget? No, it's a recommendation based on what you're comfortable with. So I keep $150 as a miscellaneous item throughout the month. The last couple of months I've actually been under, so I've just kind of pushed it to the following month. But if you want a recommendation, I like the number 150. It works for me. But again, I don't know what your numbers look like and what your budget looks like. But if you need a starting point, maybe start there, or maybe start with 100 or 50 or 200 and see if it works. Try it for a month, track everything, see what works. If you went over like crazy or you didn't even come close to spending it, that may mean it's time to adjust your budget. What wallet do I use? Like I said, I use this one and I have the envelopes that I put in there. Have I found small ones to pop into discs? Yes, the Notique ones. Okay, now there's 3 questions I want to talk about. Oh, sorry, there's another one. How to handle when you need money from multiple categories like grocery and spending. So I'm not entirely sure the details of that question, but I have a couple of thoughts. If the idea of the question is if you're going to multiple stores, then the idea would be to bring a few different envelopes with you. If you need to go to one store like Walmart or Target and you're going to go shopping, I would do separate checkout purchases. I have talked to my friend and patron Eileen about this for a long time at Walmart, where you just go to the checkout and you separate your purchases. And it's not a pain. The person at the checkout line is there anyway. I mean, maybe if there's a long line, you feel rushed, but it's your time also. So if you need from multiple categories, definitely do separate purchases. If that's something that overwhelms you or maybe makes you anxious or you're not comfortable doing, another thought is to track on your phone's calculator as you're at the store, whichever store it is, as the money, like as you're putting things in your cart, this is $5, this is $19, and then just pull out of your wallet before you get to the register. So you know how much total you're going to need, even if you're pulling from multiple envelopes. But again, the best way to stay within budget is to keep the categories separate. And by that, I mean keeping the purchases separate. This is also going to be helpful for when you are tracking the following month or looking back the following month to see how much you spent, having them all on separate receipts. All right, there's 3 questions I want to answer about using cash for savings. So the first one is in the bank or at home. Oh, I answered that already. It's kind of a combination of the two. Is it as effective to do fake cash for savings as it is regular? It depends on who you are and how spending and savings works for you. So if you love seeing your bank account number growing, it's absolutely effective to use fake cash, which you can get on Amazon too, or Monopoly Money or something like that, where you can see it in the envelope, but you also like seeing it in the bank, and you may feel safer seeing it in the bank and not having it in person with you. So not only about seeing your bank account grow, but just safety reasons. I think it can absolutely be as effective as long as you know not to spend that money. So maybe the right choice for you is going to be opening a separate bank account or even at another bank. I have another bank where I don't have a card through, I don't have checks through, I barely access it for a bulk amount of my savings because, again, out of sight, out of mind. The final question about savings is what to do if you don't have the amount that you've pulled. So there's a ton of savings challenges out there. For example, I have a 52-week one. There's also like 100 card envelope cards where you pull out a number and that's the amount you save. If you don't have the money that you've done, it's okay. There's a couple of different options. Sometimes with the 52-week savings challenge, I think they're all between it's the other envelope, or it's the one I pulled out. In my 52-week savings challenge, they are all between $5 and $20. So it's 5, 1 week, 10, 15, and 20, and then back to 5. If it's the week and it's 20 and you don't have that money, maybe go to the 5 and then the following week go back and pay yourself the 20. I think that I know people want guidance and strict guidelines when it comes to budgeting, but I also think it's important to give yourself some room for flexibility in life because things happen. The other piece that I do is when I pull my money from the bank for the week, I put the money in my savings challenges right away so that it's not what I have left over at the end of the week. I save, and then what I have left over after saving, I have the opportunity to spend. And that is very helpful as well. So if you're having trouble with savings challenges, start with the savings challenges before the week begins or before the weekend begins and you go to spend money. So let me make sure that I've covered all the things I have here on my desk. I believe so. I think I've answered the questions. I think we might be set. So everything I used here is linked. Definitely check out my Etsy shop where I have a ton of trackers that fit these envelopes perfectly. We have savings challenges, trackers, savings for Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day, 52-week savings challenge, generic, all that kind of stuff. And let me know in the comments if there is a question that I did not answer in this video, and maybe we can do a part 2 coming up. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you are not already subscribed to my channel, please do take a moment, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you next time.